that he has been suffering. At the beginning of my speech, I focused on the two great problems of the world today. And both are a defining moment for the United Nations, for the respect of values and principles of the United Nations: Ukraine and Gaza. In Ukraine, the Russian aggression continues with great brutality, and I think there is no way for the Ukrainians to surrender, to raise the white flag. It's not the moment for the Ukrainians. They have to continue resisting the invader, and we have to continue supporting them in order to make them to resist. I've been in Ukraine. Their cities are being bombed by Russian missiles, and their culture and their identity are being threatened by annihilation, because Russia denies to Ukraine the right to exist. Once again, this attack is a blatant violation of United Nations Charter, and it was quite comic that today the Russian ambassador accused the European Union to be an aggressive power. We are an aggressive power, and this is being said by Russia, who has been launching the greatest aggression of this century against a neighbor. Well, I appeal to the United Nations membership to Ukraine, European Union membership for Ukraine, which will be the strongest security commitment that we can offer to Ukraine. And I insisted that we are not against the Russian people, we are not against Russia, the Russian nation and state. We are just against an authoritarian regime who has invaded its neighbor, violating the United Nations Charter. The second issue is Gaza. The situation in Gaza is unbearable. The very survival of the Palestinian population is at stake. There is a wide-scale destruction. Everything that makes society is being destroyed systematically, from cemeteries to universities, to civil register, to the property register. A wide-scale destruction, looming starvation of hundreds of thousands of people, famine, and acute lack of health care and humanitarian assistance. What we know is scores of kids traumatized, orphaned, and without shelter. At the same time, we have to remind that there are still more than 100 history hostages still held by terrorists. This situation has to be alleviated, and for that we have to increase humanitarian aid. But keeping in mind that this humanitarian crisis is not being caused by a natural disaster. It's not a flood. It's not a earthquake. It's not something caused by the nature. It's a man-made humanitarian disaster. Yes, we have to support people in need. We are quadrupling our humanitarian assistance. We have to mobilize the international community, but it is urgent that Israeli authorities stop impeding humanitarian access. From parachute and from sea is better than nothing. But this is not an alternative. We cannot substitute hundreds of tons and hundreds of trucks coming by road with an airborne operation. It's better than nothing, but it doesn't prevent us from showing and pointing which is the real problem. And the real problem is that there is not enough access by the normal access way, which is by road. We are launching parachutes in a place when 1 hour by car there is an airfield. My God, why not to use the airfield? Why not to open the door to the cars, to the trucks? And this is the problem today, but we have to look at the root causes of the problem and to look how to build a lasting peace in the Middle East. And the only way to do that, from the European Union point of view, is a two-state solution. I encourage the United Nations Security Council to take action. I encourage the Security Council to draft a new resolution explicitly endorsing the two-state solution as the solution and defining the general principles that this could be make a reality. For us Europeans, the values of the European United Nations remain at the cornerstone of the international system, and we back financially, the European Union backs financially the United Nations. We are the largest financial contributor. We finance almost 1/3 of the United Nations regular budget. 1/3 is coming from the member states and the European Union. We fund 1/4 of all United Nations agencies, including UNRWA. We fund 1/4 of all programs of United Nations around the world. And at the same time, we have 20 military and civilian missions and operations around the world. I explained to the members of the Security Council, around the globe there are 5,000 Europeans working for peace in 21 military and civilian missions, working on post-conflict situations, training national security forces, contributing to the overall stability of various regions in Africa. I mentioned one after the other, in the sea, the last one in the Red Sea, in the Mediterranean, in several places in Africa. Around the world, there are Europeans working to try to make peace reality. We have also to focus on conflict prevention. It's clear that it would be much better to prevent the conflict than come quickly when the conflict has erupted. Don't forget about the forgotten conflicts. Don't forget about Afghanistan, where there is a gender apartheid. Don't forget about what's happening in the Horn of Africa, in Sudan, in Somalia. Around the world there are so many crises that we have to increase our capacity to prevent and to try to solve them. We want to be a security provider, working for sustainable development, and supporting the United Nations, because we need this house more than ever. And I want to pay tribute to everybody working in the United Nations system, especially to the one that has lost their life on trying to support people, in particular in Gaza. Thank you.
First question, 80 letter, AP.
Thank you very much, Mr. Borrell. You just said you want peace. What is the EU doing, or can it do, to try and promote a ceasefire of even 6 weeks in Gaza to let humanitarian aid in and have hostages and prisoners exchanged? And a quick second question, what is the EU's reaction to the resignation of Prime Minister Ariel Henry in Haiti and the prospect of a presidential transitional council?
Well, Haiti is one of the chronic crises that has been looming for years. This has not happened overnight. And the international community has been lasting too much in order to intervene in Haiti. Now with this mission, which is waiting to deploy their capacities in the ground, there is a possibility of trying to restore a minimum of stability in order to deploy humanitarian support. I know that this will require a lot of efforts, The only thing I can say that is we support this mission, we support the deployment of these forces, and we believe that the international community has to engage in order to make the Haiti people get out of the black hole where they are. Alone, they will not succeed. That's clear. It needs a strong engagement of the international community, and I want to salute the efforts done by the US, the Canada, and for the Kenya people to engage their troops, their police on this endeavor. What we are doing, look, here at the Security Council, what are the Europeans doing? You have France, you have Slovenia, you have Malta, members of the Security Council supporting a resolution which could make a difference, pushing in order to try to look, everybody agree on what is needed, which is a long-term cessation of hostilities and at the same time the freedom of the hostages. You know that there are different sensitivities among member states of the European Union, but what unites us is the fact that hostages has to be released as a condition in order to make the hostilities to stop and to look for a political solution. And that's what the members of the Security Council belonging to the European Union are doing.
Ephraim, Arab News, please.
Thank you so much. Beside the position at the Security Council, besides the position at the Security Council taken by some of the European nations you just mentioned, is there any other leverage that the EU can exercise to put a stop to what's happening in Gaza? Where are the actual actions? Where are the measures taken from the EU? We have not seen anything yet beside what you just described. Is there really nothing else? And we also know that some European countries are actually enabling what is happening with Gaza by sending weapons, like Germany, for example. So how do you reconcile that, and what are the actual measures that the EU can take?
As I said, I am representing the European Union as a whole, and sometimes it's difficult because there are different sensitivities and different positions. There are some member states who are completely reluctant to take any position that could represent the slightest criticism towards Israel, and others are very much pushing in order to get a ceasefire. Two member states, Ireland and Spain, have requested the European Commission and myself as High Representative to study how and if the Israeli government behavior is an agreement, it fits inside the obligation according with the association agreement that we have with Israel. And next Monday at the Foreign Affairs Council, we will have an orientation debate about this important issue.
Thank you.
Last one.
Voice of America.
Voice of America.
Welcome back, Mr. Borrell. On the maritime corridor for Gaza, could you just explain to us a little how you see it working and the EU's role in it? We know this first ship has left Larnaca. Where is it going to dock? It's just things seem to be a little vague at the moment. Could you explain your view of it?
Well, this is the ship of the Spanish cooker.
I think that's
Yeah.
the World Kitchen's ship that's going, but the EU seems to be involved somehow.
Well, this is a ship of the World Kitchen. It's not an European Union ship. I don't want to take the merits of others, no? This is a ship that was put on board by these individuals who have an extraordinary merit because with their own resources are collecting food and trying to send it by ship. And as I said, look, if they can go by ship, better than nothing. But the coast in Gaza is not easy because there is no harbors. The U.S. wants to build a kind of a provisional harbor in order to make the boat ready to approach the coast. And I know that this is going on. this is going on, but this is a ship that has been provided by an individual initiative. I want to give them all the merit, and at the same time to the European Commission and the European Union the support to this initiative. We are doing a lot from the point of view of humanitarian support. We are doing a lot. But keep in mind that before the war, every day 500 trucks were coming into Gaza. And now there is, in the best of the cases, less than 100. So just imagine living in a village and suddenly the number of supplies being divided by 5 or by 10, and in addition to that, the distribution of the supply being very difficult because there are military actions every day. So we have to put all our initiative on maritime, on airborne capacities, but we don't have to forget the root causes of the problem. The root causes of the problem is that by the normal way of entering into Gaza, there are obstacles that has to be lifted.
So you're saying you support
Thank you very
the
much.
maritime corridor, but are you involved in executing it in any way then? Does the EU have a role in it?
Yes, we have a role. The President of the Commission went to Cyprus to express the support and the engagement of the European Union with that. But keep in mind who's doing what. Thank you.
Thank you very much.